gents, what's the most overused word in football? Right, beyond a doubt, it's crisis, isn't it? And you see it written all the time. Liverpool are in crisis, or whoever's in crisis. The next team's in crisis, and so my kind of question to you is when does a blip, which I was fairly confident this was, 2 or 3 weeks ago, when does a blip become, a crisis, and when does a crisis become a full blown crisis? Craig, what do you reckon?
Well, I think Frank Lampard's had an absolute crisis. He's gone out the door, which was interesting, but
Yeah,
and that was inevitable, to be fair. I mean, we'll talk about that another day, but I think we are in crisis mode, Steve. I think you're right. I think it's gone past the blip now. You've looked at a lot of these games in different ways. You look at the two fixtures against Manchester United and think these are games that can get the spark back. These are games that can give us the momentum that we need. A goalless draw and a valiant 3-2 loss, if you want to call it that. And then Burnley, I think that for me is just the most Liverpool thing ever, that the home record gets lost to a late penalty against Burnley. And it's heartbreaking. And we're in crisis mode. And how we get out of this, I think it's difficult, because I find it extremely difficult to sit here and be critical of the mentality of a group of players who have delivered what they've delivered, who've had their back up against the wall, who've had heartbreak after reaching the Champions League final and losing it to come back to win it. Same with the league, heartbreak after losing it to City, come back and win it. So as fans, we have no right to question the integrity and the heart and the desire of these players. All I can think of is it's a mixture of burnout, it's a mixture of pressure, and it's a mixture of what Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville spoke about, that maybe this 3-4 year cycle is starting to come to an end, which only lends, I suppose, more credibility to Klopp's call to bring in a centre-back. So I think we are in crisis mode right now. I think that's my take on this anyway.
I think we're not yet, but the Spurs game is the one for me. As I said before, I think if we lose to Spurs, that's when we're looking at things and going, yeah, we're in a real crisis here. Top four is going to be tough to get. That's what our focus will be. I think that's where everything will shift. I think if we beat Tottenham on Thursday, we've still got a chance. Things will start to look a bit better for us. Obviously, as you say, it's the start of a difficult run, and hopefully there'll be an upturn then and a change in form. However, I think if we lose, that's when we have to look at things and go, you know what? This may be a crisis, and it will be obviously very close to the deadline, and Liverpool's still not active in the transfer window, and they'll be looking at things and going, we're not good enough at the minute. And the frustrating thing about this is it's so obvious for us supporters. We can see where the issues are, and they seem such an easy, simple, quick fix, but obviously it's not.
Let me play devil's advocate to that, if I may. We sit here as fans, and you say we know what we need. We need a centre-back. Klopp knows that. But if we're to work off history of signings that Klopp has brought into the club, nobody usually just comes in and starts playing. I mean, you can take the Takumi Minamino, Andy Robertson, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. You can take all of them as examples of players who've come in and have taken a month, 2 months, 3 months to get up to what Klopp feels is up to speed in the intensity in training, tactically aware enough to play. And then, of course, you've got the rigors of Premier League football. So even at that, I'm still scratching my head going, would that actually solve it?
But it's a really good point. And I texted a mate the other day who's pretty good on these things and in the media, and I said, any credence to the Eder Militao, thing from Real Madrid? Because to me that seemed like a bit of a no-brainer. If he's available on loan, he's perfect. And he said to me, he thinks there maybe was interest a while back, but he said, when can you remember Klopp ever bringing in a loan signing? Other than like Stephen Colker.
What a man.
When's he brought in a loan signing? Because that's the point that you were making. It takes such a long time to get up to speed with the way Liverpool play that a loan signing just would be fairly pointless. And I think the same thing probably applies to the sort of short-term, Socrates, Ragnar Klavan type thing as well, which I don't know that I necessarily agree with that.
I don't.
I think there's some logic in there that I just don't think they're going to do that.
I don't agree with that at all. I think, we've praised the club for the last few years for how smart they've been in the transfer market, and something like that, signing Socrates on a short-term deal, I think would be ridiculous. It's
No,
all
that's what I mean.
yeah,
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I think
Wouldn't happen because it takes you that long to fit into the way Liverpool play, that you just wouldn't sign someone with that kind of short termism.
Yeah, I think it's one of them things. I think going into the transfer window, I didn't expect us to sign a centre back. I didn't think we did. I didn't think we would. Sorry, but as I said, I had reservations that if we don't sign a centre back, I reckon we wouldn't win the title this season. And looking back at it now, it looks like I might be right on that one. But it's one of them things, really, isn't it? Where, as you said, it's not really a Liverpool sort of situation where we'd rush into the transfer market, where we'd do a thing like sign Socrates on a short-term deal or an Eder Militao loan. So yeah, Liverpool won't rush into this, but if they do, and I've seen, obviously, me and Craig spoke before we came on air about the Socrates thing and how Liverpool had a phone call with him and stuff like that, and that just baffles me, because it's not a Liverpool thing whatsoever, and he's so clearly not good enough, and it would be a waste of a signing. I think the obvious ones is that Liverpool need a signing this January. We need a centre back, but we need one that's not just for the short term. It's not just a short term fix. It's one that can rival Gomez when Gomez is back fit. We lost Lovren and didn't replace him. We've got Fabinho as a midfielder, but it just seems like our squad may already be too big, and that we have to see a few outgoings before we can see people coming in.
Can I ask one question around the finances of our club? Maybe you guys can enlighten me. I'm baffled. I think Steve alluded to it earlier on about why there's no money, because I look at our squad, and yes, we've got some players who've earned themselves good contracts, but I think it's fair to say 180k, probably our highest paid player before maybe bonuses and stuff. We don't have an Alexis Sanchez on 450 grand. We don't have 350 grand goalkeepers like David De Gea. And yes, Manchester United are a different financial animal altogether. But how can we have no money? I'm genuinely baffled.
I honestly don't see it as that. I genuinely see it as, and there's been a few, obviously, whispers in the media that Liverpool are planning one or two big transfers this summer, and I honestly believe that's what we're planning. We're putting money away for 4 big transfers.
It's more like not getting value in the market in January rather than not wanting to spend.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's the case. It's totally more about how in January you're paying more tax to get players, because players want to keep hold of their players until teams want to keep hold of their players until the end of the season. So yeah, January is a completely different and tougher window to sign players in, and maybe Liverpool are sort of saving their finances to prepare for a big summer. I think that's probably more the case, Craig.
We've been sold that dream before, though. We've been given that line before, and it hasn't come to fruition.
I remember the other day. I came to my mind the John Henry video after we won the Champions League, where he does a video of Sky, and he promises how much money he's going to start pumping into the transfer window, and says that we're going to go and we're going to spend loads of money and we're going to get new players in. And that window we didn't sign anyone. Yes, of course, it became fine because we won the league in the summer. I think we made a couple of good deals. Bringing Jota in, of course, has proved to be fantastic. The Thiago deal seems an absolute steal for £20 million. But for a couple of years now, we've not had the backing. We've not really gone anywhere in the transfer window. And I feel like this summer has to be a big one. So, it's one of them. I think for me, it's more the fact that the January window is an inconvenience, and it's difficult to sign players. And as Steve said, the value of things, everyone knows we're desperate for a centre back as well. So that's an additional tax on it.
Yeah, that's it. Like, you call Brighton up for Ben White, and they're saying, "Well, yeah, you can.
Yeah,
you give us 70 million quid or something daft."
Absolutely. I feel for the club in a way, because it's an impossible situation. It is difficult, and we're saying it like it's so easy to just go and throw millions and millions of pounds about. But it is one of them things. I think it may be that we sacrifice our league position this year to have a really big summer and go again next year.
You can say Mbappe. Go on, say it. Go on.
I was thinking about Mbappe when Jack was talking then, only in the sense of it's pie in the sky, isn't it? It's
Has
absolute
to
pie
be.
in the sky.
Has to be.
Absolute pie in the sky, because he's going to cost 200 million quid.
Yeah,
It's
and
absolute pie in the sky.
that's the thing. And there's like Haaland as well, who's obviously got a cheaper release clause. Is it actually? We've seen loads of murmurs in the media that we are planning to sign a centre back in the summer. Are we going to go huge in the summer for a centre back and go for a long term quality young partner for Van Dijk? Because obviously Gomez, we know he's a fantastic player, but he does seem to have these injuries every single season. And as Klopp sort of looked at it now and gone, no, I want to sign a quality centre back partner for Virgin and see where that goes. So, it could be one of them, or it could be a Varane or someone like that. You just never know. That I know. Maybe even Upamecano. There's Koundé. I saw some people say that we might get both Upamecano and Konate from Leipzig. So it may not be Haaland or Mbappe. It may be centre backs that we're looking at.
But we're not getting any of those names that you mentioned if we're not in the top four, are we?
Well,
we're not getting any of them.
Very, very true.
Upamecano, Koundé, Konate. They're going to Bayern Munich, or they go, wherever else they're going. They're not coming to us if they're not in the Champions League.
Koundé's the one I want.
Ben White for me.
Is it? I'm not sold on Ben White. I'm really not sold on him. And for me, the reason no on Ben White is the tax that you pay for a Premier League player as well. He's English. You're paying over the odds for what I think is a good centre back. He's good, but nothing better than that. I think we need to sign a world class centre back to really put Joe Gomez's place in under pressure. And not even just that, it gives us an opportunity to rest Van Dijk when he's back. He's just come back from an ACL injury. He's not gonna be able to play as intense schedule that he was before the injury. We're going to have to manage his fitness very, very well. And by bringing in a world-class centre-back like Koundé, like, Upamecano, somebody of that calibre, you're really putting pressure on Joe Gomez too. And helping our options.
There's one more outside name I want to just throw in the hat there, and that's Pau Torres from Villarreal. I've been watching him, and I think there's something there of good value, but he's a bit lightweight, I will admit that. And I know the problem with Ben White, from what I've read about the club scouting report, was they're a bit iffy about his aerial duels, because I think he's only 6'2", 6'3", which in the Premier League is small for a centre-back.
I don't think even think he's that. He's sort of 6'1". I think he's not a big lad at all, Ben White, but he looks like he's got a bit about him. But for the money you'd have to spend on Ben White, you'd want someone ready-made who's going to step in and be, elite level, wouldn't you? And I don't know that he would be that. It might be in a couple of years, but I don't know that he'd be that straight away.
It's always funny sitting back watching the Napoli president Di Lorenzo talking about Koulibaly every year. This 100 million quid bid's never coming. They just realise that it's never coming.
It's the age thing with Koulibaly as well. Obviously, I don't see us signing him for that money with his age, and I don't see any club doing it, to be honest with you. So, yeah, it's a difficult one.